What is up, guys? We're back. It's a beautiful Sunday here in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. It's actually the same day as Slammed Enough on the island. The whole team's over there. I unfortunately decided to skip the event and come here. This is March 6th, and I'm aiming to fire this car up March 8th or 9th. I've only got a few wires left to hook up, put some fuel in it, and I need to build the dry sump lines and the fuel lines. So that's what we're here today doing. I'm gonna walk you through how I'm gonna do my dry sump lines and everything. I had my buddy Hayden here yesterday. He pulled the leaf spring out for me. Since I'm going full Fortunato coilover, we just went ahead and pulled it out. Gives me great access to the bottom of the dry sump pump to build the lines, put the fittings on, etc., etc. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna put all these beautiful, vibrant fittings and lines in this car. These are all the lines and fittings I need for the fuel system. These are all the lines and fittings I need for the dry sump. Everything for my dry sump is -12 or -10. Everything for my fuel system is -8 or -6. So it's pretty easy to plan out. I've got a nice little diagram over here of my dry sump system and how it's gonna work. So basically, I've got one line that comes from the tank into the dry sump pump. I'll have two -10 lines off the oil pan to the pump, and then I basically have one oil pressure out to the filter, and then that goes into the engine, and then I have one more line coming out that basically is a scavenge return to the dry sump tank. This being a 3-stage, it's basically got 2 scavenge ports off the oil pan and one like scavenge port off the bottom of the dry sump pump that sucks oil from the tank. And then it doesn't have 2 scavenge out to the tank like a normal pump would. This one has one out from the top of the pump and then one out for pressure of oil into the engine. So we're gonna start getting everything set up, and we'll show you guys how I'm gonna go about doing my dry sump lines. The ones down here are kind of gonna get a little finicky because of the subframe, so I actually got a conversion fitting that I think will work for this, but we'll get everything out and show you guys how we're gonna do it and catch up with you in just a minute. Okay, I just wanna interject a little clip here. We're getting everything set up, but when you go to like lay out how you're gonna run fittings and lines, don't just double check it, but like quadruple check it. I like checked over mine again and again and again, and somehow I still managed to cross 2 fittings up. So now what I've had to do is, I've actually got the dry sump pump off. I've got like fittings here and fittings there, and like I'm scavenging all over the shop to try and find one fitting that I don't think I have, but I think I'm able to swap a couple of the fittings I ordered around and make it work. If not, then whatever, I have to order one -10 ORB to -10 AN fitting, but just kind of like really think about the way you're gonna lay it out. This is the diagram that Aviate sends you. So obviously it has no, it's just a diagram, there's no like labels on it or anything for like fitting sizes. So I made my own. What I ended up doing is this back fitting on the pump doesn't clear the subframe on the Corvette. It sits right on top of here, right here. There's like a little ledge. Now I could have just trimmed the ledge out, but I wouldn't have known that until after I had the engine and dry sump pump in, so then the subframe would have to come back out. So what I did was I ordered a -10 ORB to -10 AN fitting at a 90 and was just gonna thread this right into the pump, gave me plenty of clearance. It's basically a super tight radius fitting. Well, somehow I didn't realize that my back fitting from the tank, goes from the tank to the back of the pump, is actually a -12. And somehow I was looking at the middle line of my oil pan, which I don't need a high clearance fitting for. So what I meant to order was a -10 ORB to -12 fitting, which I don't have. So I'm switching some fittings around. Hopefully I can make it work. Not the end of the world if I can't. It kind of is what it is, but just kind of like double check and like pay attention to how you're routing things. You don't want to be like us and in a time crunch and like now you're gonna try and find one fitting that's probably gonna be on back order and delay your whole build. So just quadruple check everything. All right, so we're back. It's the next day. I ended up getting pretty frustrated with myself last night and ended up just going home and just trying to get my head around all the fittings that I needed and get them on order and make sure they were gonna be here for tomorrow. I actually overnighted 6 fittings from Summit to basically finish pulling up the dry sump Tuesday, which I think is like March 8th. They should be here, which is tomorrow, so that I can try and start this car Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, something in that range. I'd like to try and get it fired up this week, get it ready to get in touch with Freddie, spec tune to go to the dyno. So I did end up getting a little frustrated last night, but I did get most of the lines built. So I've got the scavenge line out from the pump to the dry sump tank built. I ended up getting the, kind of hard to see, but if you look way down in there, you can see them. Those are the 2 oil lines that go from the pan to the bottom of the pump to basically scavenge out from the pump. And then I got this line done, which is also really hard to see, but if you look down between the headers, you can see it. That is the oil pressure outline from the filter. So basically the only fitting, or the only lines I have left, I have to build the one breather tank line, which will dash 1290 off of that, go through the fender to the breather tank down here. That is tank in. So like that is, or no, sorry. That's oil pressure out to the filter. So I only have one line off the filter. I have to build the other one, but I'm waiting on a dash 10 ORB to dash 10 fitting because I thought I had more of them, but I only had 4 and I ended up needing 5, so I ran out. So I got one of those on order, and then I'm gonna have to go from here. This is the line that's giving me such a problem, and I'll put the car up here in a second and show you why. But dash 12 straight has to go into the bottom of the pump, so it has to basically like 180 or at least 150 out of the pump up to here. So let me get the lift up in the air real quick. I'll show you guys kind of why that's being difficult, and then we'll go from there. All right, so we're onto the car now. I'm gonna show you where I have the current lines routed. They're not tied up yet, but they are routed where they're gonna be. So like this one goes from the pump, or from the oil filter, down under the pump, under the oil pan, back, that's oil pressure in. I've got Adele clamps coming. I'm gonna, clamp it to the front of the subframe so it doesn't rub through the line. These 2 lines right here are scavenge out from the pan into the pump. That's all done. If you look up there, it's kind of really hard to see, but right behind this dash 10 AN fitting is a dash 12. And that has to go up past the header basically into the bottom of the dry sump tank. Now I've already notched the subframe about as much as I can notch it without basically taking the subframe out of the car, which I'm trying to really avoid. So I've ordered basically every dash 12 fitting I can find on Summit, every banjo, every like 7, I think it's 7/8 to 7/8 by 14 thread, I think is dash 10 ORB. Banjo fitting to dash 10 to dash 12. I've ordered like every conversion fitting I can find. What I initially wanted to do, because Vibrant makes them, and I have one up on the dry sump tank, is there's a dash 10 ORB to aluminum hose end fitting that's a 90 degree. So basically, I would make the line and then the fitting would thread right into the pump. So it wouldn't be like a dash 10 ORB to dash 12 and then you put a 90, like normal 90 off of that. It makes it even tighter radius than the tight radius dash 12 AN fittings are. So the problem with that was they don't actually make a dash 12 ORB to dash, or sorry, a dash 10 ORB to dash 12 fitting that I could find. But then luckily Summit called me back and Fergola made one, so I ordered it too. So I've got like 6 different options of fittings coming, but what I'm hoping will end up working, because I've notched the subframe, I actually ordered a Vibrant dash 12 like 150 degree fitting, which would basically horseshoe it up and at the perfect angle to go to the tank. So I'm hoping that clears the subframe, because that's gonna be my preferred method. Everything else is basically having to use 2 or more fittings and creating like a daisy chain, which just creates weak points for leaks. So hopefully that's not the case, but we're gonna wait on those fittings. Those fittings won't be here till tomorrow, so we're pretty much pausing the dry sump. So we'll catch up with you guys for the dry sump portion when those fittings come in. Until then, I'm gonna get back to wiring. I honestly don't even know what to say about the dry sump plumbing, or I don't know if I've just been having an off couple of days, or if like it is actually as difficult as it was for me. I don't know. I've done tons and tons of AN lines in the past, but the dry sump plumbing just got me. Luckily it is done though. I have all the lines made. Show you guys kind of what's going on. Out to the breather, done, check. Vent from the valve covers to the tank. Not actually 100% sure if you need this. I don't think you have to have this, because I've got 2 scavenge lines coming off the pump out of the oil pan, sucking basically all the pressure out of the engine, but I put one there anyways just in case. And then that goes to the tank, which then breathes out to this catch can down here. This is scavenge out from the pump back into the tank. So basically all the oil that gets sucked out of the engine into the pump comes through this line back into the dry sump tank here. This one right here is feed from the tank to the pump. Obviously I'm gonna have to get, I have some DEI heat sleeve, and we have to heat sleeve this line. Originally I wanted it to go through here and up and around, but if I'm being honest, I just cut the line too short. So I ended up having to go to the other side. And these dash 12 fittings from Vibrant don't like to come back off. There's like little locks in the side of these ones that, like, as you tighten, dig into the side of the hose, I guess. And even if I push the detents in, they don't like to come undone. I ruined 2 fittings trying to get them back off to make different lines. So we're just gonna leave that like it is for now. I kind of want to redo the dry sump lines at a later date anyways. Now that I kind of know how they're gonna be routed in a Corvette, there was a big learning curve with the Corvette, just because of the room between the header and the, basically right here. This is the pump. The room between everything is not great. The metally of fittings that you need to even make this work to begin with is one thing. So what I actually want to end up doing at a later date is basically remote mount the lines. I want to bulkhead them essentially. So like I want to run the 3 off the top of the pump directly into the frame rail with like a really short line, and then 90 them straight up to give me more clearance. And then basically run them back to the tank. So, but that's gonna come at a later date. The dry sump fittings are extremely expensive. I've already spent a lot of money in mess ups and dash 12 line, dash 10 line and fittings, just because I didn't order the right fittings that I needed to begin with. So I'm gonna put the car up in the air real quick, show you guys what the biggest problem with this particular dry sump setup and the Corvette was, in case anybody does this in the future. You can save yourself a lot of headache by skipping this one step. So I'm gonna put the Corvette up, show you that one, and then, yeah. All right, so I'm just walking over here to grab a flashlight so you guys can see. This one dash 12 fitting off the back of the pump is what gave me most of the headache. So if you look up here, hopefully you guys can see this, is kind of hard to tell. There's 2 dash 10 lines that go to the oil pan here and here. And then there's the big line right there, which is a dash 12, which you can see right there, that goes up to the bottom of the tank, and that is oil in from the tank. Now, I should have got a clip of this when I had the dry sump pump out. It's probably hard to see it, but what I actually had to do is I've actually managed to find from Fragola a dash 10 ORB to dash 12 90, and that threads right into the dry sump pump. And then off of that, I have a dash 12 just generic 90-degree fitting because nothing else would fit. I have notched the subframe. I knocked almost an inch out of the top of the subframe, still couldn't get a fitting to clear. I would have basically had to take the dry sump pump off, put the fitting on, put the pump back on, and even then I tried that once, it still hit. So like going in, because of the angle you have to put it in at, the only thing I could have actually done is raise the engine up or drop the subframe down, put the fitting on, and then put it back in. The problem with that, whereas yeah, that would have worked, but if it ever leaked, if it had an issue or whatever, you can't get in there to tighten it, you can't get in there to do anything with it, so you would basically have to drop the subframe a couple inches, loosen the fitting, whatever the case may be, and I tried everything. This is a whole bag of random fittings. These are not all dash 12, but I tried a dash 1290, that didn't fit. I tried, I don't have any more in the pile, but they're on the car now, but I tried a dash 1290 generic. I tried a tight radius dash 1290, which I ended up using for the catch can because it was a $44 fitting, and why not? And what ended up actually working is that conversion fitting, and yeah, going to the 90. Now, the only concern I have is the conversion dash 10 ORB to dash 12 Fragola fitting. When you tighten it down, it still swivels because of the way it's made. So I'm hoping that doesn't leak over time. Only time will tell. Then the only other real option would be to pull the subframe all the way out of the car and basically cut that whole section, the subframe out, and then plate the bottom of it, which I really, really don't want to do. So yeah, but for now, luckily the dry sump is plumbed. We'll get some oil in it in the next couple days. I've basically got the wiring all done. So my goal is to start it this week. It's March 9th today. So yeah, we'll get some oil in it, get everything spun over, but that's gonna wrap up the dry sump video. If there's any questions, leave them in the comments below. This is my first experience with the dry sump, so I made some mistakes along the way, is what it is, but hopefully somebody will learn from them. And like I said, if you have any questions, hit me in the comments below.